noticed a lot with you, and especially in the past couple of years, and everybody else probably knows this, your appearance at shows. You haven't done a lot of shows. Now let me ask you this. I know you just went to Tinley and you went down to Texas, right?
Yeah.
And all that stuff, and it's all well and good. Selling, and there's a lot of big breeders that are not doing these shows anymore, and they just want to sell online, and a lot of overseas customers and whatnot. Selling at the shows versus just selling online, phone, whatever it is. Why do you think everything is moving towards more just the internet and whatnot, and not actually going to the shows? Because even though the shows are big and everything else, still, there's a lot of big breeders, famous breeders that are not going to the shows. Why do you think that is?
All right. Well, the reason why we all got into this, other than the fact our fascination for snakes and stuff like that, it's uniqueness. You know, you're like, oh, you know, when the first pastels, I was doing pastels, and people were like, ball pythons are junk, and then the first spiders and all that kind of stuff. But we were looking for the most extreme, for the time, representation of a ball python we can see. When we start going to these shows, the shows have changed so much in, let's say, you know, certainly 10 years, if not 6 years. And you almost get a little bit of a flea market kind of atmosphere.
Yeah.
And I sometimes have to kind of like stop myself. I'm looking at these shows and I'm looking at a spider, and it's $125. The first spider was so utterly amazing to me, and it wasn't even very long ago. It was like literally like 10 years ago. And then
what did that cost 10 years ago? Spiders?
Oh, well, we got some kind of. I had a guy who owed me money and stuff, but it cost a fair bit of money. That wouldn't be, because it's kind of convoluted, that whole scheme.
Okay.
But I mean, you know, some of the first, you know, we paid some of these animals. We paid such goofy money for, but you know, you can easily pay snakes out of the wild $25,000, $40,000 for sure. And some stuff works and some stuff fails. You know, ask Brian Barczyk. I think he paid $60 grand for the Viper ball.
Yep.
And that was like a.
He's got the sunset ball too. That didn't work out either.
Yeah. So there's different things, and you know, we all have plenty of failures. I have tons of failures. But when you start going to shows, and it's like you got 150 other vendors, and now everybody's kind of getting to ball pythons, and they see that as, you know, it's livelihood and all that different stuff. Breed ball pythons, you'll sell them, and people are all, you know, breeding pinstripes and spiders and bumblebees and blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden we're starting looking at a pastel for $35. I don't sound like a snot or anything, but how can this pastel? I know how it can, but truly looking at a good-looking pastel, you're like, how can that be $35, $75? How can the spider be $125? For I know what this was in a short period of time ago. It was so remarkable, and it's kind of sad. And then you start, you know, the shows are expensive. I did the Texas show. I sent animals on Delta, and I sent them through Atlanta. And when I was bringing my boxes from the hotel, or from the airport to the hotel, I could smell one of my boxes. I was terrified, and I knew what it meant. Opened it up, and one of my boxes had gotten very hot, and I had some dead snakes. I killed well over $12,000 in snakes to do a show that I didn't make that kind of money at, and it broke my heart.
That's what's turning off people, you think?
Well, it broke my heart. I go down to Florida. I'm harassed by Fish and Wildlife. I have to pay $550 for electricity. I have to drive my animals down. I've driven animals down and had animals die. You have boxes break. You get harassed by, you know, oh, you can't bring your snakes inside the hotel. They have to go downstairs in this little room or whatever. There's so many obstacles, and you know, and then when you're finally, okay, you've endured all the obstacles and expenses and all this time and everything. I mean, it's very traumatic. Packing your animals, bringing them to the show, getting set up where you're happy with your setup, and then it's time to meet the public. And all of a sudden, there's 150 other vendors that are all vying for the same $125 or $500 or whatever. And you know what? I want to get rid of mine. I came to the show, I want to get rid of mine. Somebody could say, they got their snakes in their basement. I can sell mine for $90. And
no overhead.
I'm making, yeah. I mean, especially if it's cash. You know, I run businesses. I don't have to worry about hiding stuff because my expenses, I have $4,500 electric bill. I have so many employees. I have to buy new racks, and so I can spend my money like nothing. So all of a sudden, we're all vying for the same customer base. We're dropping the prices. And then you get traumatized by customers. I'm not going to blow smoke up anybody's skirt and say, oh, it's a real time that I get to go there and meet, you know, my customers and, you know, and see their passion. You know what? there's people at the shows I like. I get to see other vendors that I love. I got lots of friends in this industry, and I like them, and it's great to see them, and that's a real strong point. And I like a lot of my customers. I get to see customers, and that's really great. And then I get to see people I can't stand. I personally want to kill them, but I can't, so I have to sit here and go, oh, whatever, and I walk away. There's the good and bads of it. So when I go there, I'm antagonized. I have past employees that steal from me that set up a business, and I have to go to a show and see them 20 tables over, and I'm like, I like to stuff them in a garbage pail or whatever. And I decide, it's so traumatic doing the show, doing all the things with the animals, and I have to actually look at that guy or find somebody who's ducking me because they got animals from me and they owe me 20 grand and they never paid me. So it's like, you know what, I could just stay home, ring, the phone rings, I want to buy one snake, and it's like, boom, it's so much easier. I didn't have to pack any of my animals.
One thing though, and I'm glad that I've been coming here and doing this, and you always say, you thank me, say whatever, for bringing you back into, like, kind of bringing you out and bringing you more into the public or not. I'm more than happy to do that. I just don't think it'd be fair, for the new guy, the 17, 18, 19-year-old guy that's reading about the history of ball pythons and everything else that comes up, and hear about Nerd and BHB and Ralph Davis and VPI and all these people that made this so much for the hobby, and then you guys don't show up for them to see it. It's a shame, and that's why I do the videos that I do, and I don't get paid, I don't get free animals, I don't get anything from this but the pleasure of coming here and having access to all these animals and bringing them to the people that don't have access to it. But it really would be a shame for that new guy that doesn't know how amazing these animals can be, for them not see, the founders, the guys that really brought it up to us.
And the long road it took to get there. I mean, I remember discreet conversations. I mean, even Ralph and I were friends before ball pythons, or just the first little things. I used to call Ralph and feed off of him, and he'd feed off of me, like, oh my God, classic jungle and all this different kind of stuff. And that got Ralph, fired up, got me fired up, and there's just so many things. And that wasn't even that long ago, but that was the beginnings of ball pythons. The beginning of ball pythons were albino ball pythons, pied ball pythons, some of those basic things. And then it seemed like it was, not to give myself tons of credit, it seemed like me coming in when it was like pastels and caramels and ghosts, and spiders. And then, I think I kind of really felt like I got somewhere when, Pete called. Pete to me is like, he's the pinnacle of success and took chances, and he was in the right place, right time, albino boas, piebald ball pythons and whatnot. And when I finally was at Orlando or Daytona, whatever it was, down in Florida, Reptile Breeders Expo, and I pulled out of a bag bumblebee ball python, and Pete was like, what is that? Pete was like, and then he's telling people, go over and see what Kevin made. Go over there, and it was like, all of a sudden, I just started, like, you starting to feel like, this is how I've been working for, and I love it so much. And when people are all coming to me like, oh my God, what is that? And Pete's just like, go see what's in that bag. He's pointing at me, and he's going, go look what he's got. What the heck? He's like, that's ridiculous. He starts doing that, and it's like, I'm like the little guy. I remember going to Bob Clark's when I was first getting into this. I go to Bob's place, and I love big snakes, and I'm like, this is pretty much the godfather of big pythons, and he was doing ball pythons. And I'm going in there, and Bob's got this, he's got giant olive pythons and all sorts of ridiculousness. And I'm like, I have a little room in my house, 12 foot by 22 foot, packed with snakes. This guy's got his house and a building, and it's enormous. And just to see that, I felt like an ant. And then his knowledge of snakes, palpating, and I'm breeding children's pythons, spotted pythons. He was doing all this stuff, and I was like, I'm kind of breeding a few snakes. But it's amazing when I looked at that I'm ever where I am. I mean, if you could look at my, maybe the first mutations that I've created and started, I was a big part of starting the whole ball python craze and crazed in retics and other stuff, and how I was such an insignificant person when I went to the Bob Clark's and Tracy Barker and Dave Barker looking through their photo albums, and it was just like, oh my God, you can't.
That's kind of like my point on this though. Just think of those times when you were there.
That's what I'm saying, but I'm relating.
Guys,
I was there, and it wasn't very long ago.
I don't want you to go to a show, and I don't want to get the phone call like I got from you the other day when you called me and tell me about the snakes that you lost in the Texas Strip and all that stuff, and I don't want to hear that stuff. It's awful, but at the same time, I want to go to a show, and I want to see you guys. I want to see Ralph Davis. I want to see you there. I've never met Ralph Davis. I've never been to a show. He said, I'd love to see it. I mean, this guy is amazing, And even though I come here and see amazing stuff, I want to see what he's got. I want to see it. I want to meet him. All these different things. Like, I don't want you guys to just say, well, I can just sit at my facility and, like you said, the phone rings and I make $50 grand. You know what? That's well and good.
It's not quite necessarily like that.
Whatever, but it's great. But if you don't have the expense of doing the whole thing and the risk and everything, but you're taking away from the little guy like myself. When I go to these shows and I see, like I remember the first time I saw a ball python, I almost passed out. I couldn't believe there was such a thing. I mean, that's incredible. And if it wasn't for the bigger guys being there first with the animals, I wouldn't have had that opportunity. So it would just be a shame for the new guys coming to the hobby to not have that access to you. Will you be doing more shows in the future?
I'm trying to do shows. I like to do shows where I feel like we're almost like a positive of the show. Like when we do NARBC shows, they treat me really well. They're like, Kev, we need you there. It's like you're one of the draws, and so he kind of Brian and Bob take good care of me, and they want me there. And because they appreciate me there, I feel compelled that I got to try. That's why I did Texas. I didn't do Texas because I wanted to do Texas. They're like, we want you to do a talk. We want you to go down there. And I was like, and they're my friends, so I'm just like, one's also my publisher. And I'm just like, okay. So I said, yes, I'll do it. But that's the reason why. But I really like, Chicago shows. But I like to do shows where you are appreciated.
Yep.
And I like to show stuff to people, and I do meet new people, and I go around and I drool at everybody else's snakes, and I get jealous just like all of us do, and it's good. Sometimes it really gets us motivated too. You see stuff. The trick is to balance what you're seeing with your potential within your collection, not as what you're seeing as, oh my God, I might as well just give up. And you can't do that because I even feel like that. I really, really do. And back to my point, when I went to Bob Clark's and I saw Tracy and Dave's stuff, I was nothing, insignificant. And in 15 years or whatever, because I maybe busted butt or whatever, I'm something. At least I'm a blip on the, the landmark.
Small blip.
Yeah.
Just a small blip, so you are.